Great day to go work on the farm. We're going to go to the tulip farm, see how things are going, make some cleanups, and then we're going to jump over to the new farm. It's pretty big. Got the boys working. You ready, Cyrus?
Yeah.
What do you think about farming?
It's fun. Excited.
You got some better work gloves than those mittens?
Well, I was going to put my work gloves over these.
Okay. Got Jonah up working?
Where are these?
Just put them right there.
Okay.
Beats the old minivan.
Yeah.
Whole lot easier loading up a truck than a minivan when you're taking stuff to the farm. All right, let's go. So let me explain a little bit what we're doing here in the tulip farm. So we planted about 9,000 tulips out here in the farm. And you'll see some of our videos where we've done those and opened it up for people to drive by during COVID. This year we planted another 11,000 to add to that. So we have 20,000 tulips. And then we planted another 10,000 or so to sell as cut flowers. So as we look at the farm, you'll see that we've incorporated all the way across the farm, these of course are all our individual tulips that we're going to be pulling out for cut flowers. Therefore they're all planted all close together. We'll pull those out as soon as they even start showing any sign of coloring up. And then about 5 rows out is where we start having all the tulips that were there last year, that were planted last year. And we grew over the top of them and they came up. And then about where Jonah is out there, maybe 1 row this way is where we planted all brand new. That's where the additional 11,000 started and went down there. So it's going to be a beautiful spring here in about 3 weeks when everything starts blooming up. It's a beautiful day for flower farming today. It's one of the last days of March, and it's been snowing, it's been raining today. The sun came out, and we're just loving this weather to get out and do some work. I'll show you in a minute what we're doing here in the farm. But I wanted to talk just briefly about this fence that you'll see throughout. This is what we call a deer fence. It's a 3-dimensional deer fence. There was a great university, I think at Virginia Tech, came up with it. There's been a ton of research done. And ultimately it just keeps the deer off. There's a lot of deer pressure around here and they love tulips. And last year it worked perfectly. The tulips, we had about 200 or 300 out of the 9,000 that got nibbled on. It only probably damaged maybe 40 or 50 of those where it was permanently damaged. We do have a little bit of damage this year before we got the fence up. I'll show you that, but ultimately now that we have the fence up, it's doing great. So just to show you what it looks like as a layout, ultimately within the fence structure, you've got about 1 meter, so it's about 3 feet between the first line to the second line. And you can see a little bit better when you look down this pathway here. And then the biggest difference, of course, any deer could jump this. It's only about 4.5, almost 5 feet high. However, because it's 3-dimensional, they won't jump where they don't think they're secured to land. So this first wire or line is about 2.5 feet off the ground. And you kind of set that based upon how high you think the deer are. As they come and approach it, they're gonna come and hit their leg on it. And once they feel their leg, then they're gonna have to reevaluate. And as they look out front to see if they can jump it, they now see the multiple layers. So we have a lower layer and a higher layer. And the big difference, or the most important thing, is you have at least that meter in between the stakes all the way around. So we have that all across the entire farm. From what I can tell, since we put it up, no deer have nibbled on our more than 30,000 tulip bulbs that are sitting here growing. Plants are pretty crazy and how they are able to maintain their life. So I learned this kind of strategy of growing on top of tulip bulbs by accident. I planted a bunch of tulip bulbs on the side of my house, and I didn't want to dig them up to save them. Wanted to let them just sit there. I didn't plant anything else on top. All the weeds came in. We live right next to a big field, so we had corn. We had a ton of wild sunflowers. The height was over 8 feet tall of all these different weeds that came in and blew in and grew over top. What was amazing is the very next year, that 500 or so tulip bulbs that I had planted turned into like 1,200 individual flowers, and it just kept growing. And so I thought, wow, this is a crazy concept that instead of digging up those tulips, we can just leave them in the ground and be able to just plant over the top. So that's what we've tried and experimented this year across the 9,000. You can see here, just from this bed, we had, I think, sunflowers over the top of this bed, and maybe had 1 or 2 crops on top. And you can see pretty much they've all come back across the bed. Now there are a few beds that we can look at that ultimately didn't come back as well. This is one that probably just overwatered quite a bit, really spotty. But we did have a few beds that weren't super great. This one is like our worst one ever. So I'll have to explore to find out what happened there. But pretty much everywhere else in the farm, it is super thick and lush. I would say that it's really all about your watering and what you're doing over the top. As long as you don't water too much, you're gonna be good to go. But some of these are just so lush and amazing. How thick this is. Super excited to see what plants come out on top once they start growing. This is what the deer can do to tulips right here. This makes my heart sink. Makes me a little mad. Ultimately, you can see they chomp these down. Now, they actually chomped these down before we got the little deer fence up. I do not believe they've been in here since the deer fence has been up. These were chomped down before, and we set them on a platter for them right in this bed. But we don't have too much of that. There's probably, I think there's about 1,000 bulbs in this bed. These we're going to harvest for cut flowers, and we did probably lose about 200 across between this bed and the next bed over. All right, we finished our work over here. We're going to now head to the new farm. The boys haven't seen it yet. It's going to be my first time on the property and doing some work. Let's head over there. So we had our first day working on the main farm here and looking to get it all laid out. We were able to put down some stakes and be able to lay out these different beds. We're going to have about 56 total beds that are 50 feet across 3 different sections. So 56 times 3. You'll see that there's one section here, and then there's another section there, and then another section there. So it's a lot of work, about 2 acres total. We'll keep you updated as we continue to build this farm out. Super excited, a lot of work, but it's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. How's your guys' first day on the farm?
It was good.
It's tough, but it's fun.
I'm excited for the big property.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah. Finally have something bigger.
cut. Nice, guys.